I hope that we might be worthy of your trust. So just housekeeping, turn your phones off, bathrooms at the back. You do have a bulletin. The only time you're going to use it is for a responsive reading near the end, so don't pay it any mind for the time being. We will sing 2 songs today. They will be on the screen. We're inviting you to join the chorus in standing. We're just going to wait till everybody has a chair. Okay. I invite you all now to settle in. Let us gather together to breathe of the one breath. Let us release our burdens with every exhale. Let us abandon our aloneness, if just for an hour or 2. And let us open ourselves to the gifts that come to us in silence, in melody, in story, in community. Let us pray. We gather in the season of greening and blossoming, taking our place in the family of creation. We gather alongside cheeky petunias, bold begonias, and proud peonies, not afraid to hold their heads up high and present their gorgeous selves to the world. We gather in this spirit to take our place as unique, colorful, joyful, resilient human beings, a bouquet made more wondrous by its diversity. We gather alongside our winged relatives who greet the dawn with a song of praise. And we too take our place in the symphony of creation, contributing our unique song to the harmony and the cacophony of it all. We gather as friends, lending support and encouragement to one another, providing sanctuary and safety as we celebrate the gift of life and lean into the sacred presence in whom we live and move and have our being. Amen. The hymn is on the screen. It is a privilege and a joy to welcome Andrew Binks among us. He's got a bio there, but he's just a wondrous human being who has been a good friend to me and a good friend to many. And I guess what I will say in means of an introduction is that you are going to meet Hugo this morning. And those of you who are on Facebook, and this is like no disrespect to you, Bernard, none. But whenever Andrew posted a photo of he and Hugo, I just sat there going, oh my word, there is a love story. Just every time. Yeah. And so welcome, Andrew, who has a unique story to share, a healing story, a challenging story, a human story. Welcome.
Okay, I'll speak loud. Excuse me, I'll speak loudly. I'm going to sing a little ditty. This wasn't in the contract, but he's a boy, he's a poodle, he's poodle boy, part boy and part poodle. He's poodle boy, he's poodle boy. Okay, I got it out of my system. He encouraged the creation of a lot of music in our home, so a lot of original music. I am here talking about Hugo today in the spirit of sharing love and the far and deep extent of pet companionship. Not to say that Hugo was any more intelligent or gifted than other dogs. I've seen the clever dog trick videos and occasionally wondered for a moment if I could have taught Hugo that thing. But I'm here because we all have a very intimate and unique understanding of our companions. Many of us have had or been affected by animals in our lives. My partner Bernard and I talked about the logistics of getting a poodle for quite a few years, always talking about an oodle of some type, thinking at the back of our minds that two gay men living out in the country with a French poodle might attract some kind of unwelcome attention or trouble, yes, from passersby, our throwback to our earlier times. Why poodle? As a kid, I had an allergy to dogs and cats, hence the poodle tradition. And after these many years of talking about it, we decided, or perhaps Bernard caved to my wishes, and we decided a 100% standard poodle was to be our fate. The joy around this decision made it obvious it was the right decision. We visited the breeder to check out the latest flock of apricot puppies, and there were 2 black ones left over from the previous batch. The owner brought these nonconformists out to meet us, Hugo and his sister, so we would get an idea of how big ours would be when it came time to pick it up. We asked if Hugo, known only then as the puppy with the green ribbon, was spoken for, and no, he wasn't. So we had a mini conversation could we have a moment, please, and then the next week, after a flurry of prepping the house and buying doggy things, we returned to the breeders to pick up our Hugo. Once we had been given pages of instruction, his stuffed panda, some kibble, and an operating manual, they handed Hugo to us, and without any prompting, Hugo, who looked more like a baby black bear, headed straight for the car. He was first in the door at home and quickly checked out every nook and cranny and then promptly fell asleep on the floor under my place on the sofa. I spent the night checking to see if he was breathing and had a pulse. I hadn't cared for such a vulnerable being since having a pet iguana as a kid. My mom had taken care of most of the essentials of my childhood poodle, as moms do. We were giddy. I lost 10 pounds the first 2 weeks of Hugo. He would hit the bell on the door handle to signal that he needed to go out. We spent weeks carrying Hugo upstairs to his crate at the foot of our bed. He was black, so all you could see was a little white stuffed panda moving about in his crate as he tucked it in beside him. Soon he was sleeping on the floor, and then he found he liked the coolness of the shower floor. Very odd, but why not? And eventually, yes, on the bed. And when Bernard's sister and husband came for a visit, Hugo kindly shared the bed with them, stretching his limbs to establish his boundaries while we slept elsewhere. And eventually he was putting himself to bed at 8 on the dot. Once he figured out how to get up the stairs, he quite determinedly and noisily stomped up the stairs like a little wrestler and leapt up onto the bed. Not always, mind you. I insisted on brushing his teeth and would follow him and guide him into the bathroom as he tried to scoot past like he had never seen the bathroom. Once there, he sat patiently as I told him there are two sides to every poodle, and brushed his teeth between indignant sneezes and the odd paw on my forearm. Hugo taught us many things: how to be clowns, how to be silly, how to play. He taught me how to throw a frisbee. He taught me how to make dog food. He taught us how to sit in nature and focus on nothing more than being in nature. He taught us that the most important thing to do was to be with him. Hugo was very much an integral third of our family. When my mother passed away, he was a puppy, and they had a lovely meeting before she died. He was there at the funeral home visitation, exchanging free pats for small sandwiches. And he was there at the gravesite, listening quietly as I read Shakespeare's Fear No More, the Heat of the Sun. He was at my father's 90th, again plunking himself on the ground, surrounded by octo and nonagenarians. When my father passed 3 years later, I read the eulogy at his funeral and looked up through my tears to see Bernard and Hugo, listening intently with a special seat in the middle of the aisle at the back of a very crowded chapel in Ottawa. My father was an Ottawa boy, hence a very crowded chapel. Again, Hugo was solemn at the interment, and when Bernard and I decided to have a farewell cocktail for Dad at the Chateau Laurier, well, all I can say is Hugo signed autographs, surrounded by a group of admiring young women who were part of a wedding shower or graduation, but Hugo stole the show. Other than the panda, Hugo wasn't really interested in stuffed toys. But on visits to his Picton granny, he would burst with anticipation, and once she opened the door, he'd dash to her easy chair and retrieve a little black stuffed toy poodle pup off the top of the chair and gently relocate it and then get on with being the center of attention. He was our center of attention from morning coffee and throughout the day. He helped me garden by chewing the prickly raspberry stalks and in the shade while I cursed at the weeds. Bernard and I managed to keep our work schedules fairly compatible with Hugo's. We got him when we did because I had a dream contract from Kingston Literacy and Skills and was able to work from home most of the time. I then became a personal trainer, traveling to people's homes, so a fairly flexible schedule. But as my clients know, I ended up talking more about Hugo than about the correct way to hold a dumbbell. And I couldn't wait to get home to see him. On Hugo's first visit to the vet, the doctor looked at me, raised his bushy eyebrows, and said, "These guys need a lot of exercise, you know." It was no sacrifice to arrange my schedule, so we had ample time for walks, our outback, the beach trails, anywhere where we could be together in nature. Bernard and I saw no point in going on a car trip if it was without Hugo, and he became well-versed in hotel etiquette. Be cute and let everyone fawn over you. I should add that Hugo seemed to have come with a set of manners as if he had spent the first weeks of his life at a finishing school. I can't take credit for his poise, his kindness, or his manners. Speaking of hotels, I recall over the Christmas holidays waking up early at the Royal York for Hugo to pee in the little patch of shrubbery tucked between two buildings amid the concrete. Later, while it was still dark out and the hotel hadn't woken up, Hugo and I explored empty conference rooms, leash off, vast and big as soccer pitches. We marveled at how the lights would go on as we walked into the rooms. Later in the day, in the lobby for more autograph signing, unknown to me, Hugo was busy chewing on the corner of a life-size gingerbread house. When I discouraged him, he managed to move on to a discarded pizza crust under an enormous Christmas tree. Hugo loved traveling, and he loved parades. And one summer, we even took him to the Dyke March in Toronto. I think a photo will come up, where he barked his support. We did our best to make it to the county parades. And one year, we were running late to get to the Christmas parade in Bloomfield, so we had to park near the fire hall and then run. The kind people driving the Horse and Pony Club float asked if we wanted a lift, so in we got, Hugo on my lap, and stayed put. And that year, we were in the parade. If we took a vacation without him, the best part was getting photos of what he was up to from the dog sitter and finally coming home to him. I frequently wondered why I hadn't stayed home and sat in the poodle yard with a beer and a Frisbee and Hugo, far less stressful. Bernard had his own unique language with Hugo, despite my wanting to hog all the poodle playing time. I was blessed that Bernard watched with generosity, love, and support as we headed off down the road or into the woods. However, they did have their own dynamic, their own unique playtime, which usually surfaced when I went out on a chore or some duty. And Hugo would always have to tell Bernard what we'd been up to once we got home. Most importantly were our day-to-day activities, morning walks and Frisbee before breakfast. And then as coffee was brewing, we had a rousing song and march with whistles and noisemakers around the living room and kitchen, singing the March of the Baby Poodles. Another original song, with Hugo leaping wildly and wholeheartedly. Then breakfast, as the news of the day came over the windowsill in the form of scents of wildlife that had crossed the meadow and distant fields over the course of the night. And then a little bit of beef or pork cooked up by Bernard, accompanied by a bit of shared toast that Daddy Andy tried not to burn. I would head off to work and more walks outside with Daddy Bernard, and finally end of the day walks to the back of the meadow. Then Frisbee, then down the road for a wander through poison ivy. We seemed strangely invincible. Or another walk to the lookout, or a well-timed poop in front of one of his rivals' houses as they barked madly and he stared straight into their eyes. I signed Hugo up for classes in agility, like an obstacle course of jumps, tunnels, bridges, and weaves, all guided by the human component of the team. I wanted him to be stimulated intellectually other than our post-dinner time games of hide the toy and find it. Speaking of stimulation, if things got boring or if he was tired of hearing me and Bernard talking, he would leave the room for a couple of minutes and return with a roll of toilet paper, which he would drop in the middle of the floor. Here, this is what I think of all your blabbering. I would just leave it there. Anyway, we went weekly to agility classes, and in the summer we had mock trials to get used to the pressure of an actual competition. Then after years of training, I finally got up my courage for us to enter into a real sanctioned competition. All we could do was trust that everything we had learned over the years would add up. Hugo and I placed and ribboned in 3 out of the 4 events. In fact, the only event we didn't get a ribbon in was our best event, jumpers. Somehow we had been disqualified, but I was still in the glow of the other ribbons, so I wasn't going to dispute the outcome, although he did it perfectly. It might have had to do with the previous dog peeing on the first jump. Anyway, the day was ours. I texted pictures of each surprising result to his coach, and each reply she was more ecstatic. It was our moment, our day. Hugo was also a fan of the Picton and Milford fairs, come rain or shine. But he shunned the doggy competitions for his chance at the rubber duckies, a hot dog, and mini donuts. We had songs, too, that presented themselves over the years. Come Saturday morning, when we headed out on our Saturday adventures. But I never wanted Saturday to end. Some songs we made up, but others came across on the radio and just seemed to say, this is your song. In the early years, we'd load up the cabriolet with trash, house-building material, and I'd plunk Hugo in the front with his seatbelt on, and we'd head first to the dump, then to the beach, then to Canadian Tire, where, as a puppy, he became a Canadian Tire legend by jumping over a display of pop cases onto the service desk from a standstill start. Then Home Hardware, and of course Pet Value, all treat-friendly places. And then we'd head home. I'd have the radio on, and one day Moon River was playing. My childhood namesake, Andy Williams, crooning. And there was a line about a huckleberry friend. And as we drove up the driveway, it occurred to me how much the lyrics were our story, how this guy was my huckleberry friend. Both after the same rainbow's end. We had other songs, not sure why, but Journey's Don't Stop Believin', with Hugo's nose out the window on a warm summer night driving home from our agility, seemed suitable, and of course Tracy Chapman's Fast Car. Again, windows down and ears blowing in the wind, great big smile on his face. I couldn't take my eyes off the rear view mirror. We had what I called the secret language, and maybe it started during our Frisbee games. I remember telling a friend of mine who may have thought I was crazy for saying so, but when I was playing Frisbee with Hugo and he'd leap on me to try to get the Frisbee with this big, happy, panting smile, I thought there was nothing else in the world I had to do. Seeing this smile and having this moment was enough, was all I needed in life. And at the beach, he had a little orange floating toy that he would race after fearlessly into the deep water to retrieve it. When we later tired of this game, we'd go into the water together, and he'd stand about waist deep, and he would stand in front of me, back feet on the bottom of the lake. He'd place his paws on my forearms, and then we'd practice standing. He'd bravely remove his paws and check his balance. And once he even walked all the way around me, which left me a bit gobsmacked. But in the water, I would hold him close to me and then walk parallel to the shore. And I tell you this because it was in those moments, like so many others together, that I knew life could get no better. That this was it. I had no trouble being in the moment. Our hearts were practically touching. He'd watch the shoreline from his vantage point, resting securely in my arms. It was heaven on earth. During the pandemic, we were able to start building an addition on our house so I could do all of my work from home. Hugo sat on the deck and watched the workers cut wood, hammer, put up siding, until it was all finally done and we had a new room to work and write in. When restrictions eased, my training clients were showing up, receiving enthusiastic greetings as Hugo took his new job very seriously. He'd then nap, and at the 55-minute mark, Hugo would get up and let clients know it was time to leave and make way for the next client. He was definitely, here's your hat, what's your hurry? It's like, just over 3 years ago, he faltered on a walk, collapsing in a yelping heap. I embraced him and told him he was okay. I thought he'd sprained or dislocated his shoulder and carried him home, as I had done when we got overwhelmed by deep snow or muddy fields. Carrying a 60-pound poodle for a kilometer is one heck of a workout. X-rays revealed bone cancer. It was a confusing and stressful and sad time. Lots of treatments, etc. But I bought Hugo a very groovy jogger, and we resumed our outings, sometimes on foot, and sometimes Hugo piloting the jogger with me in tow. We started treatments and finally got into the wonderful cancer clinic at the University of Guelph, where Hugo received radiation therapy. We seemed to conquer cancer. Hugo took it all in stride. Soon we were into a new routine. No more Frisbee or rough play. But Hugo taught us that time spent together, no matter what we were doing, was time well spent. We'd sit in the yard, he'd look at us, and we'd watch him. And we would just sit in silence, listening to the birds, grateful for such beauty, for such a moment. We even had a champagne at the Royal, as befits a poodle. And he did have lunch there one day, too, so. Last year, out of the cancer woods, Hugo's walking started to falter, not because of the cancer, and again, we were visiting vets to discover it was neurological. In winter, I bought him a little sleigh, and we'd make our way to the back of the meadow, Hugo wrapped in his sock monkey sweater on cushions and a blanket, again looking like he was fresh from finishing school, taking in the glorious clear winter afternoons. Last summer, we visited the beach. I bought him a very groovy harness. I called it his Astro Boy outfit, which enabled me to provide support as he walked. We also bought him a wagon at Canadian Tire, which he took to and again We were off to the back of the meadow in this wagon, or parts of the Dunes Trail out at Sandbanks, or the sidewalk around Zwick's Park up in Belleville. Outlet Beach, where we nodded at Buddhist monks who, in broken English, after greeting us, said he had nice hair. I dreamed we'd visit Outlet Beach in the fall in the jogger. Hugo piloting, me running behind to keep up our routine. October came and Hugo could no longer walk at all. I held Hugo on my lap, and between the two of our hearts, an understanding transpired that said we'd do what was right when it was time. And amid my flu and Bernard's broken shoulder, we were forced to make that choice that every pet owner dreads. Days later, we said goodbye to our Hugo. Lynn gave him a blessing the day before. People asked if I was going to get another dog, but I wanted to make space for the grief, to understand it and think about all of our times, the good ones and the ones that we struggled with. I decided then that I needed to honor those amazing years with Hugo and embarked on writing a memoir of those 14 summers. I read voraciously about grief and spirituality every morning as if I was looking for an answer. We both wanted him back. We were both waiting for the intermission to be over and for Hugo to return. I heard a neighbor's dog barking one morning and was so crazed, I went to each door calling Hugo's name. I was sure he had come back. I woke too early every morning with nothing to look forward to and napped heavily during the day to escape. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to end things, but living made no sense to me. It made no sense to try to keep things going on. Life simply became a series of events, a series of doings until it was time to go. I wanted to return to the waiting room of the vet, to the beach, to the meadow, and find him. And as recently as a few days ago, I had to catch myself when I was wondering where he would sit when we came to church today. I learned a little from each of the books I read. Some of the points that stayed were that I would emerge a different person, that the grief would be a new layer of me. I read that out of pain comes beauty. I know we have all seen The Wizard of Oz, some of us more than just once. Our culture has adopted the rainbow as a sign of hope, a symbol, a flag that shouts we are visible, no longer in the closet, as commissioned by Harvey Milk back in the 70s. If I was with Dorothy and her friends over that rainbow and in the Emerald City, my question to the wizard might be, where is our Hugo? And just as the wizard told the Tin Man he had a heart, the Scarecrow he had a brain, and the Cowardly Lion he had always had courage, he might say to me, Hugo has always been with you. You just need to be still and listen to the voice inside your soul. For my own part, I decided not to say that he was gone, but to give space to the thin veil between where he is now and where I am, to let him know that we continue to love him and be forever changed by him. Thank you so much for letting me share this story with you, and thank you for asking me to be here. It meant a lot to me. Thank you.
So we're going to take just some time for contemplation. And if you're a guest speaker, you get to choose all the music. Our next friend is Roz Bound, who in 2016, when I met with her asking if she would write a piece of poetry for our first Pride event, agreed wholeheartedly. So I'll invite Roz to the front to share, I believe, that same contribution. She's written several over the years for these events, and she tells me when she thought about this one, she went back and read the first one again. And again, always appropriate. Welcome, Roz.
I cry very easily these days, and I first saw I Am What I Am on Broadway when Birdcage was first put on from the second row, and my heart just fell out of my body. So thank you for choosing that one. Yes, I've written several poems for Lynn's wonderful event, and thank you so much for asking me again. It means a lot. I've written about my trans grandchildren. I've written about my the quantum discoveries. And the last poem I wrote began with, I don't want to write a poem anymore. Because we say so much, we do so much, and still things seem to be the same way they are. But then when we look out here, we see no, things are moving on. But I found it really hard to write another poem, having said that. And then in my parents' photograph box, I found a photograph they must have taken of me when I was about 10 years old, sitting up in bed reading, and this painting above my bed. And I remembered this poem, and it seemed to fit with today. I just have to blow my nose because I've been crying a lot. Okay. Ram Dass writes, when we see the beloved in each person, it's like walking through a garden, watching flowers bloom all around us. Creation intended. A painting hung above my childhood bed. I know not where it went. No doubt was sent into the noosphere of thoughts and words and deeds to image back to me today, to help me see my journey way from child with dreams to reflecting crone, priestessing earth and home, praying unity for generations yet to come. The painting, clear to me now, showed diversity, lion and lamb, wolf and duckling, animals both tame and wild, woman and man and child of every color, faith and size. Flowers and stars and trees in one big crowd, arms and branches intertwined before an open gate that seemed to welcome all. I believed that then. The little girl I was thought that was heaven, each finding love beyond the skin, beyond the names that separate, each self true beyond that open gate. And a verse told me I was welcome too within that joy of people, animals, a star within their universe. And in my travels far since then, have sometimes felt that way, but often lived in separation, disintegration, divergent dance of non-acceptance, in loss of sacred place called home, in loss of love, collective recognition. But now, wisdom tells us we are one. Stardust made, all things hold the miracle of quantum life within, the rhythmic spark of the divine that fills us all. Her gift lives deep within our soul, no matter our identity, our sexuality. She celebrates diversity, wants us to love, to play, to dare to be, to set free our differences in prayers, in work, in dialect, the way we love each other. Labels only cover up the heart, a falsehood in our intellect. In my painting of creation, no one was a part. When we ask for love, it may come in disguise we do not recognize, like Arctic flowers that push through solid rock and sing their tiny life. In turn, rock opens just a crack, lets the flowers create their colors in the sun. Can we, every one, not open up to let each other grow? As did the child, I believe so. I see, beloved, shine in you. Can you not see her love in me? Look into each other's eyes. See yourself. See life. See individuality. See we as one. See diversity, as creation intended us to be. Blessed be.
And we'll take a few more moments just to let those gifts settle in. So at this time of our service, before COVID, it was when we took up the offering, and we don't take up the offering anymore, but we welcome your contribution to our vision. And that plate is as you come in the front door. But at the same time, I would speak about how we as a circle of friends were seeking to live out of the essentials of this ancient spiritual tradition. And I shared this slide with you today. The communication team has been meeting for a couple of weeks to talk about how we share the story of what is emerging in the circle of friends. And I love this word. I think it speaks really clearly about what we've been about for quite some time. But we are an incubator for new ways of understanding what is at the heart of our tradition, what is at the gold of our tradition, and therefore what language, practices, conversations we need to engage in to rise from a season of Christianity that was neither kind nor gentle. So, birthing. We are always birthing, and we are always kind of attending to where Spirit is calling. And again, the measure is always, how does this live up to the final instructions of Jesus to his friends to love one another? And I remember reading at one point, boy, if you have to go to an ancient spiritual text to know that the right thing to do is to love one another, that's kind of crazy. And it is, really. But I think there are those of us who still feel that there is gold to be had in this ancient wisdom, and that there is company to keep those who sought an alternative way throughout the ages. And we feel like we are in good company. We feel like we are in company with the mystics and with all of those in every sacred tradition who are seeking to imagine a world made new, fueled by justice and compassion and imagination. So that's kind of what we are here at the Andrew, an incubator. Our prayer is that we would be birthing good things. And speaking of good things that we're birthing, let me just go to my little announcement page. All right, first of all, I'm going to say something about the painting that is at the front of the room here. Our theme for the season of Eastertide was Back to the Garden. And in one of those events, I invited Catherine Riley here, who's an artist, to share 2 or 3 of her pieces, because they all spoke to how we understand ourselves as part of the fabric of creation, not the center of creation, not in charge of creation, but part of the fabric of creation. And she shared the story of this, where she went to paint daffodils, and then she speaks about just wanting to capture this wilder spirit within the daffodils and just let that spirit of life, that energy just explode. And I said that at some point I would be inviting her to bring that piece to share with us, and I think it's most appropriate for this event. I also thank her for her peonies and these little flowers that always remind me of Dr. Seuss characters. All right, so there's one thing to share with you. Here's another thing to share with you. Some of you know Larry Taylor and Bill Stearman, who had pins such as these made to provide to the wider community, now more than ever. We've been giving them out. We don't have many left. I'm going to put them on the back table, and if you're going to take a pin, would you please make a contribution, which then we will pass on to Bill and Larry for the costs of making such pins. Just a minute. There are many concerts that are forthcoming here at the Andrew, a big one tonight. And so if you're going to be lingering, we might ask you for some help to put away tables and maybe put up a few more chairs. And the beans are sprouting. So one of the things that some of us decided we wanted to do together, again, the Rileys have a couple of acres that they plant. And as, again, recognizing how our lives are enriched when we participate in this sacred balance, several of us went to the Rileys last week to plant beans, about 16 different varieties. Some of them, of course, are required for preparing for the zombie apocalypse. If you want to know more about that conversation, you can also talk to Catherine and Riley about it. I think that Catherine and Robin, I think, is now the person in the room who has become the skilled one in apocalypse in general. And it's fascinating, really. So Robin, apocalypse, and Catherine, the zombie part. So the beans are up. Yeah. And I guess finally, not finally, but please join us for more than refreshments following the service. I have to tell the story. I will tell the story of being a preacher's kid, you know, and coming home sometimes after school to see if there's anything in the fridge, and very often opening the fridge to layers of little squares and dainty sandwiches, to which I then yelled out, "Who died?" So just saying, we had a celebration of life here yesterday. I won't tell you who died, but there is a fair amount of food we'd like you to join us in consuming. But also, we have commissioned just a unique pride cake for the day as well. So if you don't eat the pride cake today, there are little paper plates, and we really want you to take a piece home with you and or to share it with somebody who, might be encouraged by such a gift. And thank you to Tom Dietzel, who was given the soundtrack for today. And thank you to Roz and Andrew. What a wonderful pairing. It was a beautiful pairing this morning. Of course. Thank you. All right. Short.
Just a couple of words of thank you to Mary Ann, who came in yesterday and Celebration Life, and Anita, who's not here yet, but she will be. And these flowers are going out to Joan Cameron. I'm going to take them out too. They were one of the table flowers yesterday. And there was lots of flowers and there was lots of food, so we kind of shared around. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to my volunteers yesterday. That was great. Thanks. We worked pretty hard, didn't we? But it was a success. Thank you, ladies.
All right, and I would now invite you to turn to your bulletin. And also note on the back of the bulletin Andrew's recommended reading. All right? All right. Okay. Reading responsively. Does everybody have one? Yes? Blessed are you who love the earth. In your joy you will converse with trees. Blessed are you born from love. Your eyes will shine with love that was your creation. Blessed are you who love others. The heart of the Creator and Mother beats in you. To you will be given clarity of purpose. Blessed are you who are enemies of your own racism. You will live in harmony with the citizens of earth. Blessed are you whose every act is a prayer for harmony. You are a restorer of balance to the earth. Blessed are you who receive only to give. In your house will be gratitude and generosity. In your heart will be the beginning of a new age on earth. Blessed are you who forgive. Your energy will no longer dwell on the past. Blessed are you who strives to give up anger. Violence will never be your response again. Blessed are you who love the lesbian, the gay, and straight ones as you love the sun, the moon, and the stars. None of your children or ancestors will be hidden from you. Blessed are you who love the broken, the challenged, and the whole ones. None of your children or ancestors or any part of yourself will be despised. The closing hymn is, I'd like to think, a hymn that provides a vision that we as a circle of friends consistently want to respond to. My claim to fame is that I actually know the person who wrote it. And in fact, she was playing the organ at my parents' wedding. Her name is Shirley Murray. She was the wife of a Presbyterian minister in New Zealand, which is my mother's homeland. And she wrote this song like about 35 years ago. And I hope that I hope you enjoy singing it. I have to say it's one of my favorites. Not that it's about me, but there we are. all that is longing to grow and blossom within you. May the sacred wisdom grant you good guides and counsel. May the compassionate one hold you in her tender embrace. And may the spirit that blows where it will widen your imagination, that you may be dancers and dreamers and healers and growers, seeding a world that is more kind and more just. May it be so. Amen.